Our government would have us believe that the Second Amendment is the instrument that grants us the right to keep and bear arms. The proliferation of this myth confines the argument into a box that allows for its regulation or even repeal to be within the scope of possibility. The Second Amendment is, in reality, the codification of a natural right, a stating of the painfully obvious. All human beings have an innate, inalienable right to protect the most essential of their possessions, their lives, their families, and their liberties from any and all threats, utilizing whatever reasonable means they see fit. It is laughable to make the argument that this, the most precious and basic of human rights, somehow ends at the threshold of one's home, or state line, or even international border. Yet this is precisely the absurd battle we find ourselves fighting, struggling to maintain the scraps of the most fundamental right known to man, self-preservation. It is taboo, even dangerous, to speak this simple truth. Human beings have the absolute and irrevocable right to cast off their oppressors, be they individuals, gangs, or governments. This is the very essence of the Second Amendment. Governments are nothing more than groups of human beings who claim to be in charge of larger groups of human beings. They do this through the illusion of authority, with their special costumes and fancy seals. They claim that they govern us with our implied consent, that we have somehow magically, upon birth, entered into a social contract specific to whatever random patch of dirt our mothers dropped us onto. We have been duped into believing the argument that individuals can have the most natural of natural rights we have, throttled or even stripped by the very entity that poses the greatest threat to that right. This is perhaps the biggest conflict of interest in human history. The fox is truly guarding the henhouse. After all, what is the greater danger to liberty? A single violent individual, or an organized, corrupt, power-crazed group with the self-declared legal authority to deprive you of it? History's answer is crystal clear. My father used to say, the American government is good at three things: violence, corruption, and convincing the people it isn't violent and corrupt. While the historical evidence in support of the first two is ubiquitous, the third is becoming more and more difficult for government to accomplish. In this unprecedented age of unfettered access to information, the mask is coming off of the monster that is our government, and the lengths that it will go to maintain the illusion of benevolence are becoming more deranged and increasingly desperate. Enter the ATF, the ugliest inbred sister in a government family full of ugly inbred sisters. How blessed we are to have such heroes working to keep us safe. Safe from the scourge that is ravaging our nation. Drawings on sheet metal. Seems the slack-jawed, knuckle-dragging schizophrenics at the ATF have mustered every bit of their meager cerebral horsepower and determined that drawings on sheet metal are, in fact, machine guns. Using their logic, or lack thereof, trees are now baseball bats, cows are now footballs, and ATF agents are, or could be readily converted into, Nazis and rapists and pedophiles. The utter insanity of this disjointed train of thought, void of any semblance of rationality and common in mental institutions, has found its way into our American government and is being utilized by an entity of the Department of, ironically, Justice to persecute and prosecute American citizens who have done absolutely nothing wrong. This is clear and convincing evidence that our government has zero interest in the preservation and protection of our individual rights, and that its only goal is the subjugation of all of us by any means necessary, no matter how absurd. Its primary mission: maintain power through coercion, intimidation, and violence. And the weaponization of our government continues, fueled by we, the divided people, and our failure to understand that when any one of us loses our liberty, it is but a matter of time before we all lose our liberty. The longer we all continue to fight amongst ourselves over whose subjective beliefs should be imposed upon whom, the more we celebrate these inane actions by government to destroy the rights of groups we may not agree with, the more power we give them to destroy the rights we do agree with. We live in soft times, and soft times create soft minds, and soft minds are especially vulnerable to dangerous ideas. Liberty isn't soft. Liberty is hard. It takes fortitude and vigilance and grit. Liberty requires accountability and self-determination. And liberty is a hard sell in soft times. And most of all, liberty requires unity. The liberty of one is entirely dependent on the liberty of all.